Hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining me in this short video presentation of why I started the Kenosis journey. I've been asked many times, why did I get into this journey? Um, and I have to say that uh, over the past 5.5 decades of learning from past mistakes, uh, just trying to find healing to my own wounds from my childhood days, trying to learn to connect with the source of my life, God. I have come to believe arrived at a truth that God is present. God is present here, and where you are listening, right where you are is where God is. And this truth has transformed my life because growing up, there were at least three dominant feelings that I experienced. It was a feeling of sadness, feeling of discontentment, and a feeling of being fragmented, in my heart. As a child, I grew up in a very strict home. My parents gave value for education. However, it was with condition. It was always reward and punishment. And with that brought about a lot of anxiety and feeling of worthlessness at times, insecurity. And I took it to the school and got further punishment for not being able to measure up. And these things began to reinforce more anxiety, more restlessness in my youth. And when I think of my young days, I was a restless child. I was a restless teen. I brought this anxiety into my relationships. I brought this into my college. I brought this into my marriage. I brought this insecurity into the ministry, into my calling, and reinforced again throughout my journey. The one thing that I was reinforced was that I have to create an identity that is outside of myself, a self image, as though God's image was not sufficient, that I had to create this and prove to the world, whether it be in, in, in my career or in the ministry or in my personal life, that I need to prove and perform to be loved. And when I reached the pinnacle of my career, in my estimation, being in a large church and being considered for a second level position in this mega church, that's when I realized that what I was learning and observing outside of myself, from the environment I realized that we are in a trap. I was in a trap of this self image, this reputation building self that I was trying to project. God gave me opportunities to reach many platforms, like being able to speak to 10,000 people at a time in North India in January of 2020 before the COVID. After that experience, I realized it's all empty except for the presence that fills me, that fulfills me. So this is the beginning of the Kenosis journey. I came back from that event and I left the position and I embarked on a journey. Along with my friends, I was able to discover myself, became more self-aware of becoming more aware of God, became more aware of self, that God is the very present person. He's always showing up. I need to show up. And through learning to practice solitude and silence and cutting off the noises that I'm hearing the limiting voices that I've lived through my entire life, I blocked those voices and was able to be present with God and to see the beauty within me, along with the wounds that I carried that emerged as I practice silence. And in deep silence, I discovered who I was, the beloved of God. And that was the freeing moment in my life that I wanted to share with the world. After 3.5 years, almost 4 years of this journey into silence, into God's first language, as Father Keating would call it, I discovered who I was, beloved, Hepzibah. And this truth that transformed me began as I began to share, was transforming others in India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Philippines, that I have more and more invitation as I developed this, the journey of becoming, experiencing a palpable presence of God through becoming aware of oneself, becoming aware of others, becoming aware of one's calling, one's culture, and participating in it, experiencing it, and then coming back and becoming aware of my mission into the world. And for this one reason, to form safe communities where people can experience the same freedom, which we call it as the Kenosis Life Centers. And so I I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and I want to share this experience with as many people, leaders, so that they may be formed as people who are made whole, as well as leaders who lead from their heart with their mind enfolded in their heart. Thank you for staying with me.